Hello, a few months ago I happened to see a Vice News documentary titled Inside Dafur. This was a rather emotional insight into Sudan. One was able to see the madrasa schools where allegedly fundamentalist Islamic fundamentalists are grown up. One could see the terrible conditions street boys were living, sniffing glue to get high, and one could also see the destitute of the refugee camps that the Darfur conflict had created. And it is the war in Dafur that I will be wishing to wish to talk about in further detail. Dafur itself is a rather large region. It has the landmass being 500,000 square kilometers in the western part of Sudan. There are about 6 million people in Dafur. And it is a region that has been ravaged by war for almost a decade now. The problems in Dafur started already in 1989 when a new government, the Islamic National Front, came into power in Sudan and started advocating a more pro-Arabic policy, thus marginalizing the position and role of non-Arabic ethnicities in the country. In retrospect, this new policy has been called an apartheid, but at the same time the situation is more difficult than just that, because if we compare the situation to the apartheid in Southern Africa, for instance, where there was a rather clear, distinct division of the white people and the black people, the line between Arabs and non-Arabs is not as clear. So it has also been said, and this is the opinion that the Vice News documentary also propagates, that in addition to an ethnic conflict, one of the centerpieces in the war in Dafur is also a struggle for resources, particularly a struggle for oil. Right, I would like to mention the participants of this war. First of all, we shall be looking at the side of the insurgents, or the rebel side. There we have the Dafur Liberation Front, which by now has grown into a larger Sudanian Liberation Army. But initially, during the early part of in 2003 and so forth, this was this consisted of 3 non-Arabic ethnical groups: the Furi, the Zagawi and the Mazali, who felt that they were being discriminated and persecuted by the government. At the same time, we have on the rebel side the movement of justice and equality, which is in its essence an Islamic movement and a pan-Sudanian one as well, meaning that it does not confine itself to the conflict in Dafur. The Sudanian government has also blamed its neighbouring countries, Chad and Eritrea, for aiding these rebel groups across the border. And as a third element, starting from the year 2010, several of the smaller factions had joined into the liberation and justice movement, which plays an important part in the conflict as well, as in the year 2011, at least 2 years ago, it was this organization that formed a peace treaty with the Sudanian government. On the other hand, we have the government's forces, obviously, but also a paramilitary group or a partisanian group called the Janjaweed. This is a collection of nomadic tribes, Arabic nomadic tribes, that live in Dafur, and it is in fact one of the long-term problems of the conflict that the Arabic nomads are in a constant conflict with the other ethnicities in Darfur. Right, as I said, in the year 2011, a new Darfur peace treaty, or a Darfur peace agreement, was signed. This peace agreement entailed in itself that the Darfur region should have a general referendum in order for them to decide the future of the region, and also that Darfur should have more participation in the national level, meaning that Darfur would have its say in the way the country ran. Still, it is questionable whether this peace agreement will have any lasting effects, as it is not the first of its kind. Already in 2006 there was a peace agreement signed. This was titled, is now referred as the Darfur Peace Agreement of the year 2006. And even if peace should reach Darfur, it would not automatically solve the many problems Sudan has in its country. You may have heard of the long-term conflict with southern Sudan, and it seems that this has again grown in strength after the declaration of independence by southern Sudan. And in addition, there are conflicts in the eastern part of the country, between the government and the Eastern Front, which is also a coalition of rebel groups, among whom one is actually the Justice and Equality movement that I mentioned before. So there seems to be a fundamental problem with the internal integrity, with the integrity of the country, and there needs to be fundamental changes inside the country, if anything, if the situation should ever become more stable. In addition, it should be mentioned that the documentary by Vice News was released some 6 months after the peace treaty had been signed, and during their stay in Sudan, the effects of the peace treaty were already in full force, but their opinion was anything but positive about the situation in the country. And in addition, this was something I already said before, but it should not be forgotten that the conflict is not only ethnical in kind, in its nature, and a wholly separate problem is the role of the international oil companies that operate in the country, seemingly isolated from the rest of the society, from the rest of the country, but at the same time their influence to the entire conflict is anything but isolated. Shane Smith, the journalist who led the Vice News documentary, concluded with his thoughts that the war will continue, the war in Dafur, then that is, will continue as long as it is profitable. And what we can deduce is that it will remain profitable as long as the international oil companies are willing to do business in the region, despite the apparent instability of the country. Right. Thank you.